Why, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield, and today we are going to do a breakdown and review of episode 5 of the Rings of Power. Now, I've got to just say right off the bat, you guys, I was displeased quite greatly. There are parts that are cool, so if you're someone that really likes it, I'm not trying to offend you. I don't want you to run off. I'm going to try to, you know me, you know my channel, I'm very fair, I'm very balanced. I'm not pro it, I'm not totally against it, but here's the thing. I've officially, from episode 4 was making me think they were going in the right direction. 5 made me, there was a lot of butchering with the lore that happened. I understand from a storytelling perspective, but they didn't need to do what they did, even though I know they don't have the rights to everything. They didn't need to do it in the way they did it. There was some good stuff too. We'll go through it. I'll give the little ratings, like you know from every one. I'm going to do it a little bit faster than the other ones. But here's the thing. I am going to start considering Rings of Power, for my personal self, you don't have to do this, as the multiverse idea of, you know how Marvel will have like, where they'll do a spin-off of a nerd story with similar characters set in a similar world, but it's a different world, as in it's a different dimension? Well, that's what I'm going to start considering Rings of Power, because guys, the bottom line is they're not following enough. There's too much made-up stuff. There's too many things that they're trying to link and connect, which I will talk about what I don't like about that, and a lot of made-up stuff. And again, guys, bottom line is the story writing, at least, I don't want to give it a full-out rating yet, the series, before it's done, because I've been telling you guys I'm going to wait until the whole season's out. We got 2 more episodes after, or technically 3 after this one. I just feeling like there's too much, the story writing just isn't good. It really isn't. Some of the characters have decent lines and decent storytelling, and some of them don't, right? And I know that some people like certain things, and everyone's going to have different views. Some people are going to like things, some people are going to dislike things. Please tell me in the comments. Be civil about it, guys. Again, I am happy to hear people, even if I disagree with someone's comment, I'm happy to hear it if you say it in a nice way. I'd prefer you to tell me what you really dislike. I don't really want, I've had a lot of comments where just like, it's crap, or it's, you know, just a flat thing. Like, it's like, no, tell me what you disliked about it, guys. I want to hear, like, I disliked it because of this storytelling, or this didn't have good music, or this I thought was corny, or this I thought was, you know, that kind of stuff. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear actual, like, conversation, right? I don't want to just hear random spewed out opinions. They could just be copy pasted from someone else's view, right? That's the goal, right? That's the goal why you guys are watching, right? You want to hear what Zollin Ironshield's opinion is on it. So anyway, I'm going to slightly turn down that music just a tiny bit because it's a little loud for me. But we'll go through it. Can't do sound. I'm going to do still frames. You're not going to watch it for copyright reasons. I'm just going to chop through so I can kind of talk about it and remember where things are as I rate things and stuff. So again, back to my idea with the multiverse thing. It's going to be, I'm just going to start considering Rings of Power. Just, it's set in the world with similar character names and in the world of Middle-earth as in location. Because one thing I did like about this episode was the locations again. Seeing things. I do like that the Rings of Power are bringing out these gorgeous things that I do agree with as in the looks of locations, right? Like Linden looks amazing. Khazad-dûm looks amazing. Different open field areas make sense in the lore of what Tolkien said. So it's making the world seem bigger in that way. What I think is not making the world seem bigger is the story writing and certain lines and stuff. In fact, like Horondir, right? That's the elf. He's actually like a really good made-up character. I've actually liked his character a lot more than I've liked other things. Like, personally, in my own view with Galadriel, I don't know what they're doing with her writing, but I just don't like it. It just doesn't. I know some people like the more warrior style, you know, Galadriel, and it would make sense that she'd be good with a sword, thousands of years old, but she just doesn't have as much grace as I think she should at this point. It's not like she's a young teenager. She should have more grace. And her faces, she only has like 3 faces that she ever makes, and it's always looked like she's like being stubborn or better than everybody else face. And it's not the Galadriel we see in The Lord of the Rings. And again, my analogy from the other video, guys, let's say if we're doing human years, she's 60 years old in this Rings of Power. She's 62 years old, let's say. I'm doing this as an analogy in The Lord of the Rings. So the point is, there's not a big difference in time. So it's not like people can say, oh, well, she's really young here. She's learning her, you know, her grace. No, you guys, she's really old already. She's one of the oldest elves, okay? She's not that old. And something else that's bothering me is that her hair is always out and frizzy, right? Her hair is the right color, but it should be put back, like less like I'm a crazy, like, you know, Amazonian teenager just doing everything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. No offense to Amazonians, but you know what I'm saying. It's just like her hair is just constantly frizzy and crazy. I understood that after the boat crash, but at this point when she's walking around talking to the queen, talking like the queen regent and all these people, she really should be a little bit more, you know, her appearance should be a little bit more, you know, I'm a perfect elf. You know what I mean? And they're kind of making her more like she's just like obsessed. You know what I mean? Which I know that's their whole made up plot, right? But anyway, let's go through it. Let's talk about it now. I'm sorry, I did spend 5 minutes saying that. But I just want to make sure you guys realize this is the recap. We're going to skip the recap. That I'm going to start considering Rings of Power like a different dimension. Like set in the world where we get visuals, but these characters are not the same. So it's not the same Galadriel we know from the actual books, from the actual Tolkien. It's a different what if story, right? A different thing. That's what I'm going to start considering it, okay? Just so you know. And again, if people are like, well, what do you think? Does it hook into Tolkien lore? Some things, but not a lot. And that's just kind of disappointing to me. And I know they didn't have the rights to everything, but that's not always an excuse, right? Yeah, well, they didn't have the rights to that. It's like, well, yes, they didn't have the rights to that. I said that for them. I said they didn't have a lot of rights to everything at the beginning. But now there's things they're doing that are just their own made-up writing, and man. All right, so we start with begin. We're going to go through this a lot faster than we did the other previous reviews, because I'm going to get to the spots I want to talk about. So we're going to try to make this not an hour. So we'll see how we do. This beginning part, he's becoming to be able to start learn language. I like this. Again, I actually think Meteor Man, even though we still don't know who the heck he is, I like his character. So, again, I didn't mean to do that. Got rid of my thing. So I'm going to say I enjoyed. All right, I enjoyed this part. It was good. So I like this part. And the vistas. Okay, I'm going to give a lore accurate for something where they are in the map. This is exactly what I would imagine it looking like. These views out in the distance. Great spot. I'm assuming this is in New Zealand. This looks very familiar to the landscape they used when Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn are chasing the Uruk-hai, right? In the Two Towers adaptation. Looks like that area. Makes sense because they'd actually be rather close to that area in reality, right? So there's some good little things. That's why I give it a lore accurate point, right? So that's great. That was fine. Again, I'm a glass half full kind of guy, so I'm going to tell you the positive things I like still, and we will get to the spot in this episode where I just was like, it was too much for me, you guys. It was too much for me. I couldn't find, like, I can understand from a storytelling, you'll see. So anyway, they have a conversation, right? Again, it's funny to me because the Hobbit shouldn't be here, right? That's a lore inaccurate. We've already done that in the other one, but the Hobbits are actually, from a story writing perspective, on what they're doing and how they talk and what it actually is like decent storytelling. And then it's funny because with Galadriel and her lines, a lot of it, I'm like, what were the story writers doing? Like, there's a conversation I'll show you that she has in this one that I'm just like, what in the world? Now, they start a song up that I like. Okay, this part I did enjoy. Again, beautiful vistas. Thumbs up for that. Great time. So she starts singing a song, and then, of course, it changes into a singer who's not her voice, you can tell. But they tried. It's a good song, and they basically show us more maps. I like. Boop. I enjoyed. I like the more maps. And then we get some more shots of different locations as they're traveling. I enjoyed. Okay? Another enjoyed point. Because they keep showing us these beautiful shots that are just making with the map. And then their trip and stuff. Like, again, I like their trip almost more than what Galadriel's doing, and that's like kind of rough when it's not the main point of the story. So, yeah. But, anyway, they show these beautiful vistas. They're making us realize this is Middle-earth. They're traveling through Middle-earth. I'm like, this is cool. I was enjoying this. I was like, this is really good, right? I'm starting to like this because I'm excited from episode 4, right? Again, I watched this a week later because I was on vacation, so I watched 5 and 6 at the same time in a row, which helps because 5 and 6 are kind of linked, all right? They're kind of linked. So anyway, they're having fun. He's like enjoying them being happy. He's kind of looking out of the cart, the big guy, right? And then they finally catch up. They show these people, which... They show this scary looking person. Remember from the trailer? I don't know. I can't take these bad guys seriously. So I'm going to say dislike because they're really freaky looking. But like they show a close up of this one lady, and I'm like, who are these ladies? Look, she thinks she's so smug. Like, who's this supposed to be? Like, what is happening? It's like, I don't know. Again, the armor's not... The armor... Okay, I'll be honest. The armor looks kind of cheap, all right? The armor doesn't look super realistic. It looks like movie stage props, just a little bit. Her chest piece is better than the thing around her neck and her helmet, okay? Again, the way they're looking, they're just looking so smug. And then this person. Now, this staff thing's kind of cool, right? And then it's definitely scary looking. The eyes are awesome, okay? The eyes are fine. I'm going to keep the dislike, but I'll just say that the eyes are cool. So, again, my family member, my sister looks over at me and she's like, what is this person? Is it a guy or a girl? Because it's just like, I mean, I think I'm pretty sure it's a girl, but I don't know. They really make, look, again, it's a bad guy, obviously, so they're trying to make it look like just it, I guess, right? Scary bad guy. That's what we saw in the trailer originally. Not a fan. I'm glad it's not Sauron. Glad we know it's not Sauron, because that would have been annoying. Then we get this shot, okay? Now, here's the thing. We still are not sure, is this guy Sauron? Is this guy not? At this point in the thing, I'm starting to think that I don't really want this to be Sauron, because that would be weird, because he's seeming too personable with the orcs, right? He's seeming like he's too like attached to the orcs, right? Like he like cares about them, like we saw in the first part when we saw him in episode 3, right? Or episode 4, and he's like, you know, oh, you know, be at peace to the orc. And I'm like that's really weird. It doesn't seem like Sauron would do that. And then basically he's like, let me see your arm, right? And basically he holds the orc's arm out and he's like, how does it feel? And it's like burning the orc's arm. So I'm like, wow, he's evil. Okay, all right. So again, I'm actually gonna put a like to this part because I thought it showed that he is a very evil commander. And then he's like, basically, I'm sorry that you can't feel the sun like I can, right? But someday the sun will be blotted out. It's kind of the gist you get. And you're like, oh, okay. So that's kind of interesting. So now I'm thinking, well, that would be something Sauron was trying to achieve, right? Because later he's trying to achieve that with Mount Doom, right? So I'm like, okay. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the next song here. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. Fine. Moving along. Then we get to the tower. They're getting ready. Remember in episode 4, they're going to come attack them. And this spot is actually rather interesting. Her character to me is actually not terrible. Both of these characters, made-up characters, I'm actually kind of enjoying. As in, like, they're enjoyable characters. But again, they have nothing to do with the lore at all. Zero zip, right? This is all made up. This is all a side story, which is fine because it's a believable side story in Middle-earth, okay? We're talking from a lore perspective. But again, remember, I'm still going to start considering Rings of Power like an alternate dimension, right? Like, it's a different alternative. Like, what if this happened, right? Like, it's a different. It's set in the world of Middle-earth, but it's a different multiverse, okay? That's when I'm going to start considering Rings of Power in my own view. You don't have to do that, but in my own view, because there's too many changes. And again, as much as I like some parts, there's some parts the story writing is just, gosh, it's awful. And I'm kind of bummed about it because, like, some parts are really good, and then it just falls off in other conversations and parts. So I don't know if it's multiple people writing. I know there's 2 people, right, that did most of the writing, but there might have been other people too, possibly, and it's just like... And there's something about the cutting floor that Jethros, my friend, mentioned, and I will talk about that in this episode too. All right, so let's go through. So anyway, she says, we can stand and fight, and basically does a little speech, right? It's like, okay, fine. I'm not going to like or dislike. I thought she was actually kind of, the way she talked seemed realistic to me. If she was like... She's like, doesn't really want to lead, but she's trying to encourage everyone because no one else is taking up the mantle. And then this guy says, no, we should, you know, the one guy who we saw is turning bad. He says, no, we should turn and, you know, bow to Sauron kind of thing. They're like, what? So anyway, some of the people leave. He tries to get the kid to leave, right? His friend leaves with the guy to go join Sauron, basically. And so they leave. Okay? Realistic to me that some of the, this is a lore thing that I actually like. That the people they're not Haradrim, they're the people, supposedly these people live within Mordor before it was blackened and horrible by the volcano and Sauron and orcs, right? So it makes sense to me, right? So I'm gonna put a lore correct for this point on one thing, the fact that it's a split. Some of the people go and join Sauron, some of them resist, right? That is the case with the Haradrim and the Easterlings too. A lot of people don't know that the Blue Wizards were helping the Easterlings, and some of the Easterlings were fighting against Sauron. The problem is most of the Easterlings joined him because he was a prevalent force in the East for like 400 years in the actual lore in the Second Age, okay? So he had a lot of influence there, right? Influence matters, and Harad, right? But anyway, that's a side note. But I thought that was a realistic thing for me, okay? So then we have a whole, oh no, they left, what are we going to do kind of thing. It's like, okay, all right. Again, don't worry, I am going to get to the part where I'm going to really start giving it lots of down points, okay? This, another shot of Numenor. Again, I'm going to say lore accurate. I enjoyed. Numenor looks fantastic. Again, guys, the visuals of this show have not disappointed me. It's the story writing. Okay, so far by episode 5, okay. And episode 5 for me was episode 4 started to make me have a positive lean, even though I was still allowing them to have a lot of things that changed, right, for their own story plots. But yeah, 5 just disappoints me. So anyway, again, I love this part. It's cool. I like the part they show a horse being brought. Oh, I can't get to it. It was so fast. They basically show a horse being lifted with a crane and brought onto the boat, which is super realistic. Now, there's one thing. We know that the Numenorians did not fight with their horses, so that's a lore inaccurate thing. Okay, they just ships. They only really rode their horses for pleasure and enjoyment on the island of Numenor. But I can understand that slight change for the lore because it makes sense they would need cavalry, right? But I'm going to say, and I enjoyed the fact that they brought the horse over with the pulley, because they used to do that in medieval era, right? Because you couldn't just walk a horse onto a ship. The horses won't want to go on the ship. So they just bring them over and put them in the stall inside the ship, right? So anyway, basically, he tries to kiss his father. This conversation was disappointing to me because, again, I'm going to say lore inaccurate. I don't like how they're portraying Isildur. That Isildur is like this. He's, child. I know they're trying to show this is young Isildur, but again, this is why I'm going to start saying it's like the multiverse. It's like a different version of Isildur than the actual lore from Tolkien canon, right? Because Isildur in the books, we know wasn't like this. And I know at this time, he's the one that saved the tree fruit. He solidly was good. Again, that's their own take on it. Multiverse. Okay, that's just gonna be my thing now, guys. I know you guys are gonna be laughing at me, but that's my thing now because I'm gonna coin that Rings of Power is just an alternate reality to the actual canon, because I'm gonna still try to enjoy what I can enjoy, but I'm not gonna be here rooting for it if they're gonna be changing so many things and doing bad story writing in some episodes. But again, he gets a little mad. I'm going to say a dislike too here because his dad gets kind of mad at him kind of thing. He's like, which guild are you in? I like the fact that he asks, like, what, are you in the Sea Guard? Are you in the Royal Guard? Like, I like that. They kind of like building how Numenor has all these different guilds and guards, and that's realistic. I like that. So that's a good thing. I'm actually going to give an enjoy for that. But anyway, it's conversation's just bad. That's why I give a dislike for the lore and a dislike, because I just don't. It was just not really needed, really. And then we see a shot of, then we see basically everyone's upset in here. They're trying to get Alferzon. They're like, why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. Alferzon is staying loyal to the queen right now, right? Alferzon is fantastic, you guys. He is a character that I feel is on spot with lore. I'm not going to give him a point yet because his part's coming up, but he's very, very clever. In the books, he's very deceptive, and he is originally a good guy, so his part is feeling good. Now the sister of Isildur, who's like running after, she ends up talking to Alferzon's son, which again I believe both of these characters are made up. I'm trying to remember if Isildur had a sister. I don't think so, but it would make sense that he might, right? So that's fine. I have nothing wrong with that. I actually liked her character first. Episode 5 kind of brought down both of these characters for me. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of people were already annoyed at them in the other episodes because they didn't like the whole love thing between these two random made-up characters, which I actually was fine with in the other episodes. But now I'm kind of getting a little disappointed, just a little bit. So anyway, she basically asks him, "You need to talk to Alferzon." Now she's got the scary-looking. That's like, whoa! What happened to that nice girl we had in that last episode? Anyway, I don't know why. I think the reason she's trying to make him stop, she wants him to talk to Alfarazon, so Alfarazon will help the queen to stop this invasion. Not invasion, but this war to go to Middle-earth and save the Southlands, which again are inside of Mordor, as we now know, right? Which is all, these are all slightly made up compared to the original lore where they went to go get Sauron. This was not the reason they came to Middle-earth, but that's okay, it's similar. But she's asking him to basically tell him to stop, and he's like, okay, I'll talk to her, basically, blah, blah, blah. You can watch it for yourself. It's, yeah. I disliked it. There we go, dislike. All right, then we get this awesome shot of him forging. I'm feeling like this guy that they're making the king of the Southlands, right? Halbrand, right? Halbrand? That's his name? See, I'm just like, their names. I'm feeling like they're trying to make him like an Aragorn. A little bit. There's a whole bunch of like he has an emblem, like Aragorn had the ring. He's like an outcast from his lands, and he's like the king that needs to be reunited to his land. I feel like there's a little bit of, he's a made-up character. They're trying to just kind of parallel that story from the Lord of the Rings and stuff, which for storytelling, I can understand why they're doing that, but it just seems like copy and paste a little bit. Well, I'm going to say dislike, because I don't like copy and paste ideas. I think original ideas are better, especially when they're making up a made-up character when it's not in the story, right? All right, so anyway, he says, oh, this is a beautiful blade, and then he gets summoned to the queen's palace, where here is Galadriel, the queen, and thing. Again, her character's fine. I don't really dislike or like Muriel, the way they made her character. There's some stuff I want to say that I'm not, it's not important. Oh, we won't go into that. But again, her character, her acting, she's a great actress. I actually like her character in that way. Basically, again, with the faces, she always looks suspicious, Galadriel. She always looks like she's being defiant. She always looks like she's being cocky. She only has like 3 faces. And that's what my whole family was saying too. And it bothers me. And again, she looks disheveled. That's the word, right? Disheveled. She looks disheveled. So I'm going to do a dislike because she just looks disheveled all the time. Why didn't she put her hair up in a pretty braid and have a nicer dress on? Like, I'm sure that they give her a nicer dress, right? So, I don't like that. I don't know. I just think it lowers Galadriel. She needs to be more on a pedestal of, I am an epic ancient elf. Not, I am I'm here as one of the adventurer guild. Like, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense, guys? You leave a comment. What do you guys think? I know some of you really like how they've done Galadriel, and if you do, I'm not attacking that for you. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. Remember, everyone's going to have different opinions on things, guys. But me personally, this is one of the biggest issues that's making me not enjoy it as much. So that's why, or like an alternate reality. Like, this isn't the Galadriel we know from the books or from the Lord of the Rings movie adaptations. This is the Galadriel from Rings of Power, the alternate multiverse, okay? That's why I'm saying that. I know that's a Marvel thing, but it's the best way for me to explain it to you guys. Different dimension. Right? Different character. Again, her face, it's not the faces she's making are just not regal enough for an elf. Like, even the actor for Elrond, he makes regal faces all the time, which is slight variations of a smile or something. This could be how they're telling her to act, because they're saying you should be acting as a more stubborn, stubborn character, blah, 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 how they're writing it on the script. So this might not be her. Or maybe it is her acting. I don't know. But again, I don't have anything against the actress. I think she fits the look to an extent of what I would think of Galadriel. But I think they probably should have done a better job of, just making her look a little bit like more regal. You know what I'm saying? And more a face that doesn't really show emotion, right? It's more of that kind of regal, not what she's doing here. I don't know. It makes sense. Maybe I'm going too deep into that, but if I am, I'm sorry, but that's bothering me. So, me personally, watching the episode, right? This face, more suspicious. Doesn't it look really suspicious? But now, granted, she supposedly lied and said that Halbrand wanted to reunite his people when he wants to stay on the island. Again, I don't like it that she's just making stuff up, so it's a dislike for me. This is totally lore incorrect, obviously. This is all made up. I'm not giving it lore incorrect points because we know this is the made up part of the story. So that's why I'm just saying dislike. Then the queen leaves and she basically tries to convince him. Again, way too mean and serious looking of a face. I know she's trying to like convince him to go, but she's a high elf. She is commanding power without having to look like she's mad, right? That's the best part about the Galadriel Kate Blanche we like from Lord of the Rings. She commands power without even doing anything. Just the way her body is standing and her face looks and the dress and everything she has, she commands power. You know she means business and she's a power. She doesn't even have to say anything. And then, as we know, Galadriel can talk into minds, right? In the Lord of the Rings. So it's weird to me that she doesn't have this abilities to. We still see no magic from her. I know there's not a whole lot of magic in Middle Earth, so I know they're trying to stay away from that for that reason. But come on, you're making stuff up already. You might as well make it where she does some kind of magic here or there sometime. She does nothing again in episode 5. And to me, it's just she's not young. She's very old here. She's, again, my comparison. She's basically 60 years old instead of 62 in Lord of the Rings. Okay? It's not like she's 15 years old to a 60-year-old. It's not that if you're going to compare it to human years, right? Her age is already aged, and she's already married, right? She's already married. I know they've totally taken that out of Rings of Power, but she's technically already married. Again, why I'm saying this is like a multiverse, like a whole different version, right? I need to hurry up because we're going to make this too long. So let me skip through to some parts I want to talk about more. So this part, trying to convince. Now this part, they go into a scary forest. They're like, man, this forest is a lot scarier. They see the tracks of those. Apparently they're just wolves, right, that we saw before. This lady's saying we should just take off their wheels and leave them, and this guy's like, that's horrible, basically, right? So this whole part, this lady's mean as mean can be. Apparently she just wants to abandon the hobbits and take their wheels. It's like, what the heck, lady? It's really vicious, man. This lady's mean. Like Sackville Bagginses, man, they got she beats them out. That's pretty horrible, actually. So then she's out, you know, he's like, wow, gee, we're not going to do that. And then she's out collecting mushrooms, and basically they find her, and they're talking to her, right? And then she gets scared, and then suddenly wolves come out of nowhere. Okay, so this whole part, I'm actually going to give a like, because the wolf is terrifying. It flies across the screen real quick here. And the animation for the wolves were really, really good. They were similar to the warg, right, in the other episode, but I thought they were better. And my sister, and I agree with her, I think these guys look a lot better than that warg did. Now, that warg is fine, and some people like that warg, but these guys look scarier to me, all right? And again, I think a warg should look scarier than wolves. So these are like some primitive wolf warg. Again, I thought these were just primitive wargs, but apparently there's some kind of natural wolf, which is fine. I guess there would be maybe other creatures in Middle Earth. So again, it's a like for me. I don't dislike it. And then she's trying to get a stick off, and it's coming up, and it's gonna bite her. And then Meteor Man flies in to protect her, which is actually a really, really awesome part. And he basically just he just flips the wolf. So he's obviously ridiculously humanly strong. And again, that makes sense if he's like a Maiar or whatever. A lot of people are guessing maybe he's, you know, one of the Blue Wizards, which is what I would like. Or maybe he's a Balrog, you know, one of the Maiar that gets corrupted by Sauron later. Who knows? But anyway, they surround him, and then basically what he does is he does this awesome, like, he doesn't really know, apparently, he doesn't know how to speak, he also doesn't really know how to use his power. So he just like slaps the ground, and this energy wave just goes out and just pushes them all away. This part was awesome. I actually enjoyed this. Fantasy series, woohoo! Great, okay? Very entertaining. I was like, this is pretty cool, right? And again, I thought they looked really cool, right? They looked very primitive, like prehistoric, right? I think is what they were going for. Again, I don't think they really look like wolves. I think they should be more of a primitive warg, in my opinion. Because I think that Tolkien's wolves probably look more like actual wolves in our world. But that's fine. I'm not going to give that a like or dislike. And then he pushes them and they run off because they're scared. And then he looks at his arm and it's all wounded. So somehow when he used that magic, he hurt himself. By the way, side note, at the very beginning, he was talking to her at the very beginning. And remember, he was learning language. He felt bad because she said, we have all these troubles we have to worry about. And he's like, am I trouble? And basically he felt bad that he killed those fireflies, right? So that kind of rules out that he's like evil, right? So I guess we'll see. But he was like, he felt bad that he killed the fireflies. So that's saying something. And she said, no, you're good. And he's like, oh, I'm good. All right. So that was cute. I liked that part. I thought it was fine for storytelling reasons. So anyway, he hurt himself. And then we go back to here. We're having some training. This whole part is, okay. Parts of this is really good. Parts of this is terrible. All right. So I will break it down real quick for you. Okay. Sorry, this video is probably going to turn into an hour anyway, because there's just so much I want to talk about in this. So she comes in looking smug as ever, again with her hair down, again in this dress that just I don't think compliments her as the beautiful Galadriel. It just looks kind of like a lowly dress compared to everyone that's around her, right? Comparatively to all the other dresses and uniforms we're seeing, is what I'm saying. So again, it's kind of a dislike that she, as a dislike for me. All right, so basically they're fighting, and she's like, they're not going to survive. Now, here's the thing. I do think that Galadriel would obviously have better sword skills than some human boys and girls who are in their, early 20s, right? Or 18, 19. That would make sense. She's thousands of years old. What isn't good here is, I'll explain. There's one or two things I like, and there's a bunch of things I really dislike, okay? So let's do this little by little here. So we're going to hop through. Well, you want to train him? And then she basically gives him... Again, she's looking just too smug. I would have liked a more regal, like maybe a smirk at him in a nice way, but more regal look. Again, I know, it's just how they want her to act, I guess. So, it's just, he's awesome. By the way, he's awesome. I love his character. I just think he fits it. He's a really good actor. I really like his character, how he's being portrayed. So, there's orcs. She basically shows, you need to stab and twist, right, to kill an orc. And that kind of thing. And then basically he says he'll fight, right, as Isildur's older friend. So they start having a fight, and she basically says, okay, here's what I don't like, okay? The choreography. No, that's not the right word. Excuse me. Yeah, the choreography. That's the word I'm looking for. Choreography of the sword play is... I'm like not an expert, but it was bad. Okay, it was really bad. So, dislike, it was just awful, right? Again, I don't mind her being really good and be able to beat up a bunch of people. And then, of course, she starts fighting a bunch of them. And they start all fighting. Isildur comes to watch. And they're having this big old fight around here. It just, it didn't look... I feel like they could have done a better job, whoever's in charge of swordplay, to make this look more realistic, right? To make this fight look good. It can still be like Hollywood. It still doesn't have to be exactly what it should be, as in fighting exactly how they hit and block and, stuff. And I know she's an elf. She's lighter. She can do these things like Legolas could have, but it just, a lot of it just seemed kind of like choppy, and visuals with the camera were kind of all over the place. So it's just like, I like the lighting. The lighting's fine from a visual point of view. So then he comes over, and they're all fighting, right? And they're doing dueling, and again, her face is just, I don't know, she's got like 3 faces, is what my sister said. She's got like 3 faces she uses constantly. I mean, and this could be an okay face if she just made it a little less like stern and more like regal, like a little more regal, a little less, stern looking. Anyway, he actually does land a hit on her, which I did like. So I'm going to say a like, because, so the boy actually cut her shirt, and she's like, good, right? So that was good. This part actually was enjoyable. It's just, the swordplay was so bad for me, it kind of took me out of the realism, right? I mean, it's not realism, but it took me out of the feeling, because I was just like, oh, that was awful, right? Like, it was just, yeah, but, and then Halbrand was right there, because it's his forge, of course, right there. And he gives the sword back to the boy. So again, it actually, like, there was some character building here. It was fine. I just really disliked the sword play. Yikes. Yeah. Especially because she should have, like, perfect sword, like looking just elegant, because she's an elf that's thousands of years old and trained, right? And then obviously in this dimension, in this multiverse, she's a good swordsman, right? Compared to more of the regal sorceress we know from the Lord of the Rings canon. So then we go through here. Again, look at her face! Why is she making that face? She just had a good sword fight. Everyone's happy. Dislike. I don't know why she's doing that. I just can't figure it out. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. What do you guys think in the comments? Maybe it's just me. All right, now we're going to a part that I actually enjoyed. He comes up, his son comes up and says, why aren't you going to stop this war? We don't want to go to war. And basically what he says is he makes everyone leave. All his people around him, like, leave. Like, he's going to talk to his son in private. And he goes, I thought I've taught you better, right, basically. And he basically says, I don't want to go against the queen, right, or the queen regent. And he says, no, we'll never take orders from elves, because the son made some comment, we'd take orders from elves. He's like, we'll never do that. He said, but think about it. If we reinstate this king in the Southernlands, we'll have trade, we'll have power over them, we'll have tribute. Perfect. I'm going to put a plus, like, boom, boom. Thoroughly enjoyed, you guys. It was Alfarazon. He's already scheming to basically take over Middle Earth, right? As well as take power in all right, it just look at his face. Perfect. Look at that face. Speaking of, we're gonna go into faces more, he's like telling his son, like, you're missing the point, right? Of why he's going along with this, right? So that was really well done. I like this part. And then basically he leaves, and then we get the spot with her father, right? Again, she doesn't look anything like her father, okay? I'm just going to say that. I'm going to dislike that fact. It would make sense. Maybe she looks more like her mother. Maybe that's the reason. She's got duodyne blood. Maybe her mother, they don't say it, but maybe her mother was, a princess or something, or a queen of, Harad or any of the other countries, maybe the Southernland, since they're making that one up more, that kind of thing. Maybe there's some kind of reason with that, right? So maybe that's why. But again, I'm not going to get into that much. Again, I really don't I don't care about different looks of people, guys, okay? And I can't believe it when people are like, if I make a comment like that because it's not the character look like what they're described it looking like in the book, people are like, oh, are you trying to say that you're being the R word? It's like, no, come on, people. It's like, that's not what I'm doing. She's a great actress. I really like her actressness. But I'm just like, it's just, and again, that's another thing. If you notice, all of the places we see have basically people from every corner of the world in that little community, which again is unrealistic. Okay, it's unrealistic. It's not saying that there aren't those people in Middle Earth. Not saying that. I'm just saying, like, the only one that makes sense to me a little bit is Numenor, because Numenor might have people who are coming as traders, right? Like from other countries, because it's like this beautiful island nation. So, okay, still not entirely there, but and again, everyone seems to be really good actors, so I'm not really worried about that at all. But again, that's not a thing. I just think honestly, it's not good. So it's something I just dislike. I just don't think so. But again, she's a great actress. But this whole part is like kind of weird. He's basically like almost foreseeing the future, kind of. And he's like, don't go to Middle Earth. There's only darkness, right? It's kind of for foreboding. The part's actually pretty good. So I'm going to say I actually liked the part. It was really well done. And his acting and her acting were both fantastic. All right. They were really, really good. So, again, you guys, I don't care when they do things like that either, right? Where how she looks so different. I would just like it if they were like, her mother was from blah, 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 right? Or something. I'd be like, oh, okay. That's totally makes sense. It's just like, or is she adopted? You know what I'm saying? But again, I could see her, if her mother was from Harad, looking like her father, like that would make sense to me. That would totally make sense to me. And that's not something weird to say, guys. In this day and age, if people make comments like that, everyone thinks they're being the R word, right? Everyone thinks that. It's like, no, guys, we're not, okay? We don't care. Everyone can act out every part. The thing is, though, they're trying to make it more realistic for us. It's like, for example, a play, like Broadway play, everyone plays every part, and they switch out people all the time, and they all play the different characters, because that's how plays work. But in this, they're trying to make us have a certain feel for the location, and the book is very specific on what peoples are, where they are in the world. So if you're going to change something, you have to change something that makes logical sense, right? Does that make sense? All right. You guys leave a comment what you guys think about that. Again, I'm not going to get in that because people always are like, you're being the R word. It's like, no, I'm not, you guys. I have family from all over the world married into my family. I have my cousin married someone from Kenya, and she is like amazing. I absolutely love her. She's the best person. And by the way, she makes these kind of jokes. Just throwing that out there. Like, she because it's like, to her, it's silly that people freak out over that stuff. Because it's like, well, yeah, we have different melatonin in our skins. Who cares? That's how I think of it. But that's how we all should. We should all stop freaking out, right? Again, I'm fine with Muriel, and I'm also fine with Disa, right? Oh. Getting a random text message up there. So let's go. And Horondor, the elf, I really like his character a ton, okay? So again, I don't care about that stuff. Again, it would make sense to me if maybe he's, yeah. All right, so anyway, now let's pop to the next part. Basically, he is, his arm's hurting, so he has it in water, and he starts doing a spell that starts freezing the water as well as his hand. She does something super, super dumb, and she touches his arm and gets her arm frozen. I'm thinking right now her hand's about to break off, right? And then it explodes, and she looks at her hand, and she's kind of scared, and her hand's fine. So I'm like, okay, well, that's surprising. And then he feels bad, so he goes to, like, pick her up, realizes his hand's fixed, and she, like, runs off because she's kind of scared, okay? She's like, oh, no, right? So it's like, okay, all right. The part, I'm trying to think if I really liked or disliked that part. So obviously they're showing he has magical abilities like one of the Maiar. He healed himself by like using some ice magic or something. It didn't hurt her when she touched it, even though it froze her arm. So maybe that's why kind of like the fire wasn't hot. I have no idea. So I didn't like or dislike that part. So I'm not going to really say anything about it. But anyway, now we get into some other stuff. Okay? This is the part that I really want to talk about. To the Union. They basically are on this table. Durin is here, right? Khazad-dûm has been called the quietest of the Dwarven kingdoms. So basically, before they start drinking the wine, the King Gil-galad asks, why are the dwarves' forges going so hot and so hard again? What have you found in the ground, is what he asks. And Elrond kind of intervenes for his friend, Durin, right? So again, the conversation's fine. So I'm going to say I like the conversation, right? Conversation liked. And then he basically changes the subject and says this table you have is found at a certain depth, right? So he's kind of implying, where did you elves get this table, this rock table, right? And he said, you know, this table is really special and is actually used for our tombs and graves. And Gil-galad says, oh, well, we're sorry, we'll send the table home with you, right? But anyway, we find out is, why are they digging? So right there we got an issue with something. And I'll explain a little further in a minute. So we go into it, this conversation. Again, this whole part was fine, this conversation. But it's a little awkward, like you would think, between the elves and dwarves. But I like how Durin is his beard's all brushed, and he looks really, really nice and ready for... So they have their conversation about what I just told you at the table. And then he says there's some decency left in the elves, basically, because they said they'd give him the table. Right? So he changed the subject. Very clever. And then we pop to after the dinner party. Right? So Gil-galad's obviously hiding something. So then we have this. Okay? So... Sorry, my eye's bothering me. How do I break this down? This is the most important part I want to talk about, guys. Okay? Basically, what happens here... You can watch it for yourself. It's very confusing, and there's an issue on the cutting floor that I will talk about in a moment when I get there. I don't want to miss anything on my mind. Basically what happens is, do you know, he's like, you know, have you been hiding something from me, Elrond? And Elrond's like, have you been hiding something from me? Because why are you asking him that question about the mines? Almost like he knew something. And Gil-galad says, recall the legend of blah, 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 right? And Elrond's like, okay, and he starts talking about it, and then they have a cool little animation and then basically what happens is it goes to this like story of this elf. All right, this elf, and there's a good shot, right? The elf and Balrog fighting on top of the Misty Mountains, and the legend is, okay, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. All right, you guys. I can't even stress. This is what ruined the episode for me, okay? The legend is this random elf who, again, is made up and doesn't even have a name. So not only is he just a random elf in the legend, he doesn't even have a made-up name. make up a name for him, for one. So he's fighting a Balrog on the Misty Mountains, which doesn't really make sense that they're at the Misty Mountains, because a lot of the Balrog fights happen in the First Age in Beleriand, but that's not an issue. Basically, this elf pours his life, the light of the Valor, his essence, into the tree to protect it, and the Balrog attacks it, right? The tree, to destroy it. And what happens is a lightning bolt hits the tree while both of their energies are in this tree, and it sends down into the Misty Mountains, deep into the Misty Mountains. And the legend, they also said that one of the Silmarils' essence were in this random tree on top of the Misty Mountains, which they don't explain why. And that the lightning bolt hit the tree and sent the energy down on the ground and caused, that was basically how Mithril came about. Okay, let's break this down just a little bit more. Why is this just utterly terrible? Okay, more and more I thought about it with my sister too. We were talking about it. The more and more we disliked it. Okay, so again, first off, actual lore canon, Mithril was found in the Misty Mountains by the dwarves. Nobody knew about it. It was found by dwarves, right? It's a natural material that just happened to be in the earth in the Misty Mountains only, right? When the world was created by the Song of the Ainur, right? The elves never had someone on top fighting with a tree, and the Silmarils being in this random Silmaril, which are all lost or gone at this point in the Second Age, was somehow in this tree on the top of the Misty Mountains with a Balrog and a random elf that had the power, the light of the Valar, to put into a tree. Then their energies somehow made Mithril under the ground when a lightning bolt hit the tree, because they're both putting their evil and good energies into this tree, made Mithril, is so weird. For me, it lowers how awesome Mithril is, for one. It also gives some weird claim that the elves made Mithril, right? When they did not. That Mithril is just a resource that dwarves found. It's a dwarven found resource, right? In the world, created when the world was created. So that's weird, right? Like, oh, okay, so the elves have some weird claim to Mithril now, huh? Because the essence of the elves helped make it. For one, that's like Dark Crystal level. You guys know what the Dark Crystal series is. It's like the Muppet one with like the sucking essence or whatever. So like, okay, that's weird. It's also weird that a Silmaril would be on the top of the mountain. That's just weird. It kind of like belittles the Silmarils somehow, because now suddenly they're combined into the Mithril story. I know they're trying to add some weird connection for plot lines. Again, this is why I'm taking this whole series. This is the moment that made me think, multiverse. This is a totally different, this isn't Middle-earth. This is a totally different, set in the ideas and names of Middle-earth, but it's not the Middle-earth we know from canon. Okay? That's why I'm getting that idea. So now there's a couple other weird things that happen in a moment. I'm just going to talk about it right now. But so we're gonna hop through, and basically what Gil-galad tells Elrond is that he knows the dwarves have found some kind of mithril. I mean, some kind of rare material in the earth because of the story. Because this random legend, okay, that they made up. It's all made up. So lore inaccuracy for the made up legend. Lore inaccuracy for the mithril being made by an elf and Balrog's essence with a Silmaril power. So that's lore inaccuracy, dislike. And then we also have the fact that he somehow knows the dwarves already had mithril, even though the whole point Elrond went there was because they were curious why their forges were going again, right? And obviously because he had the table from depth, that must also imply that the elves were digging for things, right? Because why else did he have this table that was from a certain depth? That also doesn't make sense. So also lore inaccuracy. Oh my gosh, this is just going, the writers are just going way out there, right? Again, different. If this would be fine for a fantasy series all standalone by itself, but if you're saying in the context of Middle-earth's canon from Tolkien, this is weird. Because Tolkien did not say any of this, and they're trying to connect a mithril with a Silmaril, with the essence of a Balrog and an elf that somehow worked together by mistake and that to make mithril under the ground. That's just, it's so far out there, guys. It's like, what were they drinking? Right? Like, I don't know. What you guys think in the comments? Some people, like my one friend, some people thought, oh, that's kind of a cool connection because no one knew about the connection. It's like how mithril was made. Well, that's true. But I think for me personally, one of the points that mithril is cool for me, again, if you think that's cool, guys, I'm not attacking you. If you like this, that's fine. I'm just saying for me personally, it lowers the awesomeness of mithril for me. Because instead of mithril just being this amazing substance that they found that's been sitting there since the creation of the world under the Misty Mountains, now it's something that was made by a Belrog and an elf essence from a Silmaril on the top of the Misty Mountains in a tree that like got sent down into the deepest points of the Misty Mountains from a lightning bolt. You see how that just to me it like belittles mithril, and then it also somehow brings in a Silmaril, which didn't make any sense why a Silmaril was up at the top of Misty Mountains, right? They were all lost. Like you say, oh well, maybe it got put there because it was lost in a tree, right? And why was there an elf that had that kind of power that is not named in their legend on the top with the Belrog? Okay, you see why I'm annoyed? I don't like it. I mean, I think you can see why I don't like it. I think I've explained that pretty in depth in the last 5 minutes. So then they have a little conversation. He's basically telling Elrond that he wants to be told if there's mithril, and Elrond's like, I'm not going to break my oath, which I was like, good. So that's something I liked. I liked it that he's not going to break his oath. But of course, he's kind of implying he knows. But obviously, Gil-galad knows already, which again doesn't make sense. The elves should not know about mithril until the dwarves kind of show them, right? Later. So, and again, it's never really explained exactly in the books how the elves get to know about mithril. I would assume a more realistic reason would be that the dwarves started trading it, right? Like, hey, we have this new resource. Do you want to trade for... Like, that would have made more sense if they were going to make a plot line. This is just kind of weird that it's a big made-up plot, right? Too big for me. This episode would kind of... Not to mention, their acting was fine. It also, to me, I didn't like how Gil-galad... I'm going to say a dislike and a lore inaccuracy for how Gil-galad's acting. Gil-galad would never try to have someone break in the story their oath, even if it's for their people, which is what he's trying to say, that, like, it's their people. And now it's going to get even worse, guys. Are you ready? I'm sorry to make it. We get to this spot, which again is gorgeous. I like it. I'm going to say I enjoyed. I like the look of it. I like this region. I've already given it a lore accurate point. I think Linden looks great. So they come over to the tree. And remember that leaf that we thought maybe it was a vision or whatever? Basically, it's not. Gil-galad says the tree is it's contaminated with this black. The leaves are dying. He said it's an outer representation of our life force, basically is what he said, by the light of the Valar, which again, this is so out there, okay? He's basically saying that somehow our light is diminishing and we're either going to have to go back to Valinor or we're all going to die, is what he basically says. What? Lore inaccuracy, don't like. The elves aren't going to die. They won't die from anything like that. That's totally made up for this. And basically, then what he says, okay. All right, so anyway, he's saying that. He's showing the tree, and Elrond's like, oh, okay. So basically, what happens now is he basically says that. Elrond's like, I'm not going to break my oath, which is good. But basically, he goes, and he basically, when Gil-galad leaves, he kind of looks at the piece of mithril, like, oh, great. And then he goes, and I'm going to skip here for a second. Okay, this little part's not important right now for what we're talking about. We'll go back to that. It's really, again, the cutting floor is an issue right here, okay? So I would recommend... All right, so then let's find out this part, what we're talking about right now, okay? I'll go back. Basically, he talks to Celebrimbor. Apparently, he gave his mithril piece to Celebrimbor, which, if you guys remember the oath, he said he wouldn't speak to a soul about mithril. So, dislike. So, here's the issue to me. Did he already go... They totally passed this up. Did he already go and talk to... Did he already go and talk with Durin and say it's okay to ask about this? Because apparently... Now we find out in this scene, we find out that Celebrimbor's like, this is an amazing material. Like, basically, you know, this you can't diminish its light no matter what. And he said, if we bathe all the elves in a lot of mithril light, then we'll have our ability back. That's basically what he says. What? What? You guys, so he's saying there's life essence inside this in mithril. Which, again, that is not mithril. Mithril is not a magical substance, you guys. Mithril is a special, amazing metal that has a glowing property to it because it's so amazing, right? It's a metal, right? And he's trying to say that it has the life essence of that elf. And if he basically, I think the gist is, if he makes another lamp like the Valor had in Valinor, that it will like recharge them so they won't die. So now, basically he's saying, if we don't get this mithril from the dwarves, ask the dwarves, we're gonna die, right? And I'm going, Lord Dislike, what the heck is happening here, right? What is happening? What is this? What? Right? So he says that. So now I'm like, okay, so did I guess he broke his oath, right? Again, this conversation is fine, and he says basically we didn't let you in on it because Gil-galad didn't want to tell you, which is really weird because Gil-galad and Elrond are very close, and he's his closest advisor, so Gil-galad would have told him in actual canon. So that doesn't make sense from a writing perspective either. So it's like he's like, we're gonna die without the essence of that elf that was poured into the mithril, and it'll help save us all, so we won't have to go back to Valinor. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense at all, you guys. Their life essence is a gift from Iluvatar, that they have pretty much immortality. It has nothing to do with him getting mithril. Okay, so anyway, basically it's like, oh great, well he broke his oath, right? So Dislike, right? I already did that. That he showed the mithril to him. Nothing diminishes its light. Again, that's true. Mithril is amazing, it lasts forever, but it's not a magical substance that has a light, like an essence in it. Again, like dark crystal, right? That's what my sister was saying. Dark crystal. We talked about it a little bit after we watched the show. Her opinions are usually good. Her and Jethros. We all three of us talked about it, and my mom. You know, I wanted to get the gist from that a little bit. I usually don't watch anyone else's reviews to kind of be clear on it, but so now I'm going to skip past this part too, because we need to stick to this main plot we're talking about. So then we get to right here. Okay. We get to this part. Okay, so here's the cutting floor issue. This is what Jethros pointed out, which I agree with Jethros on this. They should have put this part after the dinner party, right? They should have put, or after the dinner party and after Gil-galad talks to him at the tree, and then they should have put this, and then they should have put the part with, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little too much there. Then it looks like a train hat there. Then they should have put the part with him talking to Celebrimbor about the ore, because what it would have shown was that Elrond didn't break his promise, that he talked to Durin about it, Durin okays it, and then he brings it to Celebrimbor. He doesn't cheat on the oath first, right? So they should have flipped the parts. It's like a cutting floor issue, or a storytelling issue. What's going on? So Dislike, again. So anyway, this part is actually excellent, though. I did like this part. I'm going to say I enjoyed this part. His smile, that's the kind of smile where it's like a regal look, but it's kind of a side smile. I like Elrond. I think he's a good character. I also like that he kept his oath, sort of, though it looks like he broke his oath with the way they did the cutting floor, but I think it was being implied that Durin already knew about it. So Durin basically says here, what do you, tell me, give it to me raw, basically he says, give me the meat raw, like what's up, right? And he basically says, well, if we don't get your mithril, we're all going to die, basically is what the king told me. And he said, and I'm sorry, I came to your land, I thought I was coming to make friendship. He said, apparently, without me knowing, I was trying to get mithril out of you guys. Is basically what he gets the gist to. So, conversation's good, right? Makes sense. Should have been before the part with Celebrimbor, so it didn't look like he broke his oath, because they acted like he didn't break his oath. But it seemed like he did, because this part came after, so I think they needed to flip the parts. So, I don't know what was happening there. Maybe a cutting floor issue? I don't know how you do that with a big multi-million-dollar show, but again, you see why I'm annoyed. And then, basically, Durin thinks about it, and he's like, so the whole race of the elves is in my hands? And basically, there's a little joke. He's like, yep, your hands. And Durin likes it, right? He does a really funny, great face. It's actually, again, I love their friendship. Fantastic. Plus, right? I'm actually going to give it a lore accuracy, because I really like the friendship he has with the, because they had a good friendship, the elves, during this time, right, with the dwarves. So basically, great. The clothes are awesome. By the way, enjoy the clothes. Their clothes look fantastic. His clothes look really awesome. So basically, Elrond says, so you know what? And he's like, in my hands, basically. He said, fine. Like Durin, he's like, don't thank me yet. We have to convince my father, basically, that they would let them have mithril or trade with them, right? So, great. And his character is fantastic. Durin's fantastic. So, really like his character. That's something like, for me, lore correct on the character. Okay, really, really good. Anyway, great. So then they have a little bit of talk here, and Gil-galad is kind of, I guess, is listening, So basically, he hears that Durin says okay, right? So okay, let's pop back now. So you guys understand. We're gonna finish up this episode review here, but do you understand why I'm frustrated? The whole story, it doesn't make sense to me why the elves already know about Mithril, because of that legend that's made up, that's not in the lore, and that somehow the essence. And by the way, Celebrimbor, something I need to go back and show you. Celebrimbor makes a comment that it's as strong, it's the essence, the light of the good elf, and as strong as evil is why Mithril is so powerful. I don't like that at all. That belittles Mithril for me, you guys, because it makes me feel like Mithril is like this combination of good and evil, and that's why it's so powerful. No, evil is evil. Tolkien would dislike that. I dislike that. I'm sure you probably don't like that. I didn't like that comment. I was like, what? My sister said that too. She's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, what? No, evil should taint it. It should ruin it. It should make it stronger, right? So that whole story bothers me. And why do they need the essence out of Mithril from a guy? One elf put his essence into a tree, and now they need that to bathe in the light to save their energy, you know, immortality sort of thing with the elves. Don't like it. I dislike it. I dislike it. Another dislike. So I didn't like it. So anyway, let's go back and get the spots we missed real quick here now that we've gone through those 4 scenes that I think the one needed to be flipped, like we talked about. It was Jethro's idea, and I agree with him. So now let's go back to, now we go back to Numenor. They're basically having a little party. Nothing weird happens, but basically that's his fiance, the one friend. Then they have a conversation that's fine. I enjoyed it. Basically, Isildur lets him punch him, and like he feels better, and then they're friends again. And basically, they get him on the boat, right, to go, because that's what Isildur wanted to go on to the voyage, right? So they go on the voyage, blah, 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 moving on. It's not important. Then basically what happens is the son, he still couldn't go on. The friend still said he wouldn't go on. The son of Elpharazon sneaks on the ship. We think it's Isildur, but it's not. He sneaks into the ship. He's going to set the ship on fire with the oil, apparently, which I don't know why it explodes, but side note. But Isildur's in there. He's like, why are you in here? And then Isildur tries to stop him and basically run outside because the fire is about to explode all the oil. And the kid gets his head hit, Elpharazon's son. Isildur saves him, and then basically says to his father when he swims from the ship that's on fire, we were on a little boat going by and it exploded. So basically the dad's like, huh, okay. So, and of course they both go along with it because they don't want to get in trouble. They blew up one of the boats, right? The kid and Isildur. It's fine. It's okay. So the 2 of the boats are gone, and then Elpharazon kind of tries to say, maybe we should wait. She's like, we shouldn't wait, blah, blah, blah. We'll decide in the morning kind of thing. The whole conversation is like, blah. There's the part where he saw. Moving on. Oh, gosh, you guys. So, again, it was fine, the whole part with the boat, but I don't like her dislike it. It looked good, the area, but then she goes... This is another part. This was in between the 2 parts, right? Again, cutting floor-wise, I would have rathered each part had been like the story, like, here's these characters, then here's this characters, and then this is this characters. That's what me and Jethros and a couple of us were talking about our family. They should have just done the parts in the episode of all the different characters instead of split, right? That's just a video production thing I didn't like. But they have a conversation here. She's trying to convince him to go. Again, her face still looks, she looks like she's just like holding her breath stern all the time, right? And she tries to convince him to go, and he goes, what about you? Like, what's your thing? Guys, the dialogue is terrible. I dislike it so bad. The dialogue's terrible, all right? So anyway, basically, he's like, what's your thing? And she basically doesn't give him an answer. She basically just says, because I have to. It's like, that's not an answer. Sorry, from a storytelling perspective, the whole conversation here was just rough, you guys. It was rough. If you watch it, it was hard to follow. I didn't know what was going on, and I'm pretty good at following things, so I don't know. You guys tell me. I watched it a second time, and then I could figure it out. All right, and then we get this spot where basically the half that left decide they're going to come pledge their loyalty to Sauron, and oh, and then they pop back to their conversation again, right? This conversation. Again, her face, she just looks like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not just gonna keep ragging on her face. I'm not saying that she looks ugly, you guys. It's not my point. I'm saying the faces she's making don't seem right for the acting for the moment. I'm not sure. Okay. And then he basically has his little thing that's kind of like the ring Aragorn has, right? And he's like, I don't even want it. You can have it. This guy says, he's like, I'm so glad you're back. Basically thinking this guy's Sauron. Spoilers, guys. We find out he's not Sauron. Okay. And the next episode. Again, episode 6 is already out, so I'm not worried about it because you've probably already seen it. And we're going to do a watch party of episode 7. We're not going to do 5 or 6. We're going to skip them. Because I was on vacation. Take out your rightful place. He doesn't like when he makes the comment about Sauron, so he like slams him down, and then he says, if you want to join me, you have to do this. Basically, kill the kid. They don't show it. They show an arrow hit a wall. I have a feeling they killed the kid. All right? They didn't say, but I have a feeling that's what happened. That's what they implied. I did like they showed how evil the orcs were in this. Like that. That's a lore correct for me. Orcs need to be evil. Because they're inherently evil. We've talked about that. So they're sticking to that. But why does that guy like the orcs so much? That's the question. Why do they call him Ardar? Not Ardar. Aldar or whatever, which is father in their made-up thing, right? There's a really good conversation, but basically of encouragement here. I enjoyed this part. Again, I'm not really... The kid's fine, but he did... It was really, really well done. He basically giving him courage to not... they're coming to get him, but stuff. Aim this. And then they find this thing right here, right in the wall. It's like, whoa, what is that? And then he realizes that sword is a key. By the way, throwing that out there. That's kind of what they realize there. That basically the sword that he sticks to his arm, he keeps using the kid, is basically some kind of evil key. We don't know what kind of thing. How long? Okay, the orcs are coming. This part, the actual... Okay, this stuff, there must be another way. Basically, she starts giving up hope a little bit. He gives her hope after she's been kind of trying to lead everyone because she's kind of just stuck his leadership. He's like, I'm going to hide this thing, right? Since it's some kind of sword thing. And then they decide, oh, wait, there's a better way to kill these orcs than fight them. We can knock down the tower. So they break it and they rig it where they can knock down the tower, which I actually like. I actually think is fine. Realistically, what happens, I don't know. The orcs are walking in. The orcs in their awesome charging looks cool. All right, now that part we already watched, so we're gonna skip through. Then we go back to this part at the beginning where he basically decides he will go, right? And then we get a little parade, which some of their armor looks great. I like his armor. I'm gonna say I like it. All right, her armor, the queen's armor looks a little bit unrealistic the way they do the shoulder stuff, and basically they walk to the thing. The sister's really upset when she sees Isildur is there, right? Because he got in because basically his father saw he saved the younger noble of Alferzon, right? So we're going through. Good. This is fine. Beautiful shot, lore accurate. I love how Numenor looks. Again, that's why I'm laughing. I'm like some multiverse, guys. It's like the world of Middle Earth, but different characters, like a different multiverse, right? Like the same character names, but different personalities and different things they do, right? It's like a different dimension. But that looks really good. I love how the ships look. The ships look great. I enjoyed the ships. And then this part is really funny because he's like, oh, you got on the ship? And then the father's like, here, take a broom. Basically, he's a stable boy. So enjoyed that part. Here comes the music in this part I actually enjoyed. I'm going to say I enjoyed. The music was awesome. Guess what? Her hair being back looks a lot better. And her face here, it's better. Could be better. Her armor's actually pretty cool. The only thing that doesn't make sense to me with the armor is, so I'm going to say a like and a dislike with the armor because this chainmail just popping out the things here doesn't make any sense. It's really weird from a realistic armor point of view. Your chainmail doesn't pop out like that. So plate armor goes over the chainmail. But again, the shoulder things look really cool. Like those look good and stuff. And again, there's a little bit of an issue with her having the star, but it's like, I guess there's some lore things there, but I'm not going to go into that. It was fine. I think her armor looks pretty cool. I kind of like it. Again, they're like, oh look, she's just arrived. Another character. It feels like she's Brandon. My sister was saying like, oh, she's arrived again. But again, the part was actually kind of cool. Basically, it's like the fulfillment of, like all this issues that have been happening. All right, we're all solid. We're going on the adventure to go saves the Southlands, put him in kingship, and get to Middle Earth, right? So it's kind of like a feeling of that. So again, a standalone fantasy series, fine, enjoyable. Multiverse, Lord of the Rings, if it has nothing really, a lot of change stuff. right? Some is okay, some is not good. And then the helmets are fine. The helmets look cool. The armor's okay. They have scale armor in the lore, so lore-wise, the armor's fine. How realistic it is to real life, some of it is, some of it's not. It's okay. It is nice that it's kind of higher on the waist, because realistically, when you sit, you need your armor not to like grab on. I have studied armor stuff. I do like that stuff. You know what else I really like watching about armor is Shadowversity. Shout out to his channel. He's a big channel, but I like his analysis of armor and stuff. He did a pretty fair and balanced analysis of Galadriel's gear to this point in the series. I liked it. He tried to keep it more or less, because he gets really frustrated about things too in the series, but he kept it where it was just basically talking about her gear in general, what was good, what was bad from a realistic point of view. The boats look great. This is kind of a good part. They're kind of talking, and then we get this beautiful shot of their sails, just like the artwork right there. Gorgeous, right? Beautiful, gorgeous, love it. Okay, so that's the next part, and then that was pretty much that episode, my friends. So as you can see, there's some stuff I really liked. There's some stuff I didn't like. I'm not going to leave it even. I think I missed one, so I'm going to add one more lore discorrect there and one more dislike, because there were just a couple terrible lore changes and storytelling in this episode that, like, if they hadn't done it that way, it would have actually been a very good episode. But now I'm just thinking if it's just going to be a multiverse. You know, it's just going to be a different dimension, same character names, same locations, but different things they do, right? With the made-up characters put in. So that's how I feel about it. What do you guys think? Thanks for watching. You're here for the whole thing. Thank you to my patrons for their support. Subscribe button's there if I earned it. Next episode will be up there for the review for 6, and a Tale will be over there, my main content with voiceovers. Because again, yeah, Rings of Power. Parts I enjoy, parts I'm really not enjoying. Thinking of it as a multiverse now, that it has nothing to do with canon at all, which we all kind of knew already. I was being cautiously optimistic, but now that they did this turn this way with episode 5, I'm like, yeah, I think I'll just enjoy what I can enjoy and just realize the rest is going to be bad. But you know what? That's how it goes. And again, if you like it, great. You can like it. Don't worry about it. If you really dislike it, I totally understand. But please, with your comments, guys, leave things that you actually will have a description of what you really liked or what you really disliked, or both. And stuff like that. With rating, by the way, you want me to rate this episode? It's like a 4 out of 10. 5 out of 10. Just because the scenery is good and the music, and there's a couple spots I liked. That's why it still gets that high of a rating. But because of those massive lore changes with the Belrog essence mixed with the elf, which just doesn't make sense to me, with the tree and lightning making Mithril with a Silmaril, and that the elves already knew about it before the dwarves, like they knew that the dwarves already had Mithril, like that just bleh. All right, that was that for me. But anyway, you guys have a good day in Middle-earth. I will have the review of episode 6 coming out too, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Voice of the Rings. And we'll do some other Lord of the Rings content that isn't a multiverse, other dimension. In Lotro, which has really excellent lore. So come and join us, my friends. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.